I wrapped an iron in tinfoil for this brilliant furniture hack. I grabbed a side table from the thrift store and took it apart. I sanded it, wiped it clean, primed and painted. I painted 2 coats and then sanded and wiped clean between each coat. I added a clear top finish and then I put it all back together. I wrapped my iron in tinfoil to keep it clean and then I turned it on. Once it was heated, I ironed wood edge banding to the edges. I left a bit overhanging on either side and then I trimmed it with scissors. When all the edges were complete, I gently sanded the top edge and filed the corners to ensure a smooth finish.
I grabbed a can of regular oven cleaner and I'm going to start by spraying the entire piece generously. After leaving the oven cleaner on this piece for about a half an hour, using a stiff bristle brush, I'm going to start scrubbing. I can already see the oven cleaner is working to remove the stain. To get the remaining oven cleaner off, I'm going to give it a quick rinse with the hose and then leave it to dry out in the sun. I want to do another round of oven cleaner though to remove the stain from the underside and a few little areas that I missed the first time. Now that the wood is completely dry, I want to finish up with a quick sanding of the wood. Found this beat up table at the thrift store last week and it's quite damaged. I'm going to start by painting my table white. Going to add all kinds of bright colored paint into my container. And I'm going to add some texture into the paint. And I'm going to use the Fusion Fresco powder, but you could use baking soda and mix it into each of those colors. I'm going to start putting it over the stencil. And we want to start just spreading this all over. And I'm going to hold down the stencil as much as possible here. Okay, and once you have your stencil completely covered like this, you want to very gently try and take off a little bit off of the top. We can peel up that stencil. How gorgeous is that?
I think you'll be amazed at what you can create using discarded furniture. I took some bamboo sticks, which I had purchased from Amazon, and I measured the length of the front of the drawer. I cut the bamboo sticks to this length, decided that I was going to remove and discard the top drawer. I removed the old doorknobs from the remaining drawers, and then I sanded them down lightly. I spaced out my bamboo sticks, and then I applied them, simply using liquid nails. I took the drawers and the cabinets outside, and I spray painted them. While I was outside, I also cut a thin piece of plywood, so that it would replace where that top drawer was that I had removed. I simply slid this into place and continued painting the entire nightstand. I added new pulls, which I had purchased online as well.
I gave these golden oak chairs from the early 80s a complete makeover. I sanded all the wood clean before applying the barkeeper's friend. After a bit of trial and error, I figured out that the easiest way to cover all the wood was to mix the barkeeper's friend into a paste and paint it on. After letting them dry for several hours, I scraped off the dried paste before wiping the wood clean with a wet cloth. I used a clear water-based sealer to protect the wood. Replacing the cane was a little tricky. The seats also got a new look with new foam and new fabric.
Can't beat the price of free, so let's give this stool new life. I'm going to begin by sanding off just the top part of the stool. I want to leave this down to the bare wood, and I painted the legs and the spindles on the stool, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it just a little bit of shine with this gold wax from Country Chic Paint. Then I took this Magnolia Garden Transfer from Dixie Belle Paint, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply this to the top part of my stool. I'm going to come in with this tough coat from Country Chic Paint just to seal it onto my design.
Grab a can of black spray paint and a roll of rattan webbing. Grab one of those outdoor folding metal tables. Clean it up with cut some paper and tape to the table so only the frame shows. Give the frame a fresh coat of black spray paint and let it dry completely. Outline the top of the table onto the rattan webbing with a Sharpie. Cut out the circle with some sharp scissors. Spray one side of the rattan with some spray adhesive. Spray the top of the table and let it sit for a few seconds until the surface is tacky. Place and press the sticky side of the rattan circle onto the top of the table. Place some heavy books on top of the rattan. Use some sharp scissors to trim the excess rattan from the circle.
I picked up a set of chairs off Facebook Marketplace. To begin, I'm going to take some painter's tape and I'm going to go around the outside of the fabric. So I just have a spray bottle here with some water in it, and I'm going to begin to work in small sections, just spraying off some of the chair with the water. You just want it damp enough that the paint will soak in. For the upper portion of my chair, I just continue in the same process that I have been doing. When I am done painting, I'm going to remove the painter's tape, and I do this when the paint is still a little bit tacky. You don't want to wait till it's completely dry because you may peel off the paint.
I found this fun shower curtain. I'm going to start by painting the table. Use a utility knife and run it along the edge. I want to seal the paint to protect it. Put a layer of Mod Podge all over the glass, and now I'm going to lay the shower curtain onto it. Trim off the excess, add one more layer of Mod Podge over the top for added protection. To get the table ready, I'm going to start by giving it a quick clean. Next, I want to give it a light sanding. I want to wipe it again. I like to start with the pedestal first and then do the top. I'm going to add and combine some water with some white paint. To apply the wash, I'm going to use this chip brush because the bristles are natural and uneven. To soften up those lines a little bit, I can wipe them with just a damp paper towel.
I've got this old glass table, get it all cleaned up. I'm going to tape around all of the edges. Next, we're going to do that 2-part epoxy. We're going to pour it halfway down the table. Next, we're going to mix a little bit of teal. We're going to pour it out. We're going to go with a darker green, and you're going to start spreading out that white. Start getting rid of all that flaky paint. Start spraying it with some good spray paint. It was time to put on the darkest color we have. Put some more waves on and spread it all out.
I found 6 chairs on Facebook Marketplace that were perfect for a makeover. I started by disassembling the seats of each chair. Because I was planning on painting the chairs, I first needed to give them a good sand. I applied 2 coats and let them dry for 24 hours. I first snipped the strings holding the buttons and then got to work on removing the hundreds of staples to loosen the fabric. Once all the staples were out, I was able to remove the fabric and reveal the batting and the cushion. To cut costs, I'm using a heavy-duty drop cloth for my fabric. After washing and drying the cloth, I used the old cover as a pattern for my new upholstery. Once the covers were cut, I secured them to each of the seat cushions. The most important part of the step is pulling the fabric tight before stapling. This creates a clean, polished look. I then reattached the bottoms with 4 screws and my chairs were done.
I took the table apart, separating the glass from the metal ring. Laid the glass on top of the picture. I mixed 2 parts white glue to 1 part black craft paint. I outlined the sun. And once the lines had dried, I cleaned up any lines that were too thick by cutting them away using a utility knife. I painted the background using a 1-inch wide brush. I added designs to each panel. I gave the paint 2 coats of spray sealant. I used a medium grit sanding sponge. I painted the metal bright blue.